Our schools deserve our attention tonight. Why one district is failing young black men so badly, and how Colorado as a whole is doing to make up the learning lost during the pandemic.
Say, okay, we've established that, but now we find ourselves in a place where kids are behind where they were before, behind where they would have been.
A $2 million bet that if you give money to people who desperately need it, that they will spend it on essentials.
When you say to somebody, we trust you, we believe in you, and we know that you know what you need in your life, that's powerful.
A truth test on an ad that calls a candidate an extremist. And a trip to see snow, not back in time, just up, up, up. A trip around Colorado while you sit on your couch. That is next. The state says Colorado's largest school district is failing young black men. The Department of Education says Denver Public Schools did not fix problems that have been preventing black students, boys primarily, from getting the education they're entitled to under law. The investigation is focused on DPS's affective needs centers. They're separate classrooms for students with emotional disabilities. Black males are overrepresented in those programs. So overrepresented, at one point the district itself called those centers, quote, one of our most glaring examples of institutionalized racism. The state started looking at this because of a complaint by Advocacy Denver, a disability rights group. Their executive director says these programs are more focused on behavior, not learning, and students fall behind academically as a result.
There are times when we work with families where a student may be in an affective needs center program, and then as they're ready to transition to a less restrictive setting back to general education, what we observe is because of the lack of instruction, there's gaps in terms of the students' learning.
The state found a long list of problems with how Denver Public Schools placed kids in these programs. The decision found that DPS didn't use enough assessment tools to determine the best supports for students, failed to place students in as close to a normal setting as possible, didn't give parents a chance to weigh in on their kids' placement, failed to monitor students' progress in the programs, and allowed teachers without the right certifications to run special ed classes. The criticism should not come as a surprise to the district. DPS had a plan back in 2020 to dismantle these programs. Then the plan itself got scrapped. District said it couldn't just end the program if they didn't have a replacement ready to go. And they realized that other district programs also had disparities, like black students being underrepresented in gifted and talented programs. The district says it's working on a plan to address all those inequities.
We do have written policies and procedures for supporting appropriate identification and eligibility processes. We're not necessarily ensuring that all of our teachers know and understand how to follow through with those.
State Department of Education has given DPS a long to-do list, including lots of trainings, requirements for new plans, and more oversight on how they handle student evaluations. There's also a separate federal civil rights investigation into those same issues. A new ad that you are seeing on our air and elsewhere attacks Republican candidate for governor Heidi Ganahl. It comes from a Democratic group, Strong Colorado for All. This group was part of that failed attempt to boost far-right gubernatorial candidate Greg Lopez in the GOP primary. Our truth test finds the anti-Ganahl ad's claims are pretty straightforward.
What does Heidi Ganahl mean when she says she is the MAGA candidate Colorado has been waiting for?
Yep, that's Republican gubernatorial candidate Heidi Ganahl's ad, calling herself the MAGA candidate Colorado's been waiting for.
It means she chose an election denier as her running mate.
Yep, that's him, Danny Moore, said President Biden was elected by the Democrat steal.
And she praised the Supreme Court decision taking away abortion rights.
Yep, listen.
I'm very happy to see Roe v. Wade overturned.
Even calling the Colorado law protecting those rights disgusting.
Yep, she said that, although we should note, Colorado's law goes beyond Roe to make abortion legal at any time during a pregnancy.
If that bill comes to my desk, I will do one thing with it.
It means Heidi Ganahl is focused on her own extreme agenda, not yours.
That's opinion. You can decide what's extreme. But as for whether this ad tells the truth about Ganahl's record, in a word, yep. We will truth test political ads from a wide variety of sources in the run-up to Election Day. We try to focus on the ads that you are seeing most often. If you ever have a question about a political ad that you see, please email us, be as specific as possible, and we'll look into it. Share it here. Email us at next@9news.com. Trying to overthrow American democracy has turned into a real pain in the keister for a former CU professor. The House committee investigating the January 6th insurrection wants more of Professor John Eastman's emails, 3,200 pages more of them. Eastman's the former visiting scholar from CU who wrote the blueprint for President Trump's team on how they could throw out the election results and try to hold on to power. Eastman's legal team's fighting the release of those emails. They say it's covered by attorney-client privilege. Federal judge already forced him to hand over some of them. Lawyers for the January 6th committee say this last batch of Eastman emails is necessary as they put together their final report, which should come out by the end of the year. Xcel Energy's final coal plant is also its most unreliable power plant. An electric co-op that owns a quarter of the Comanche 3 plant wants no more of it. Comanche is Xcel's newest plant in terms of age, but a Public Utilities Commission investigation found it is also Xcel's least reliable. The co-op, CORE, says that facility has been offline for more than 700 days over the course of its 12 years. Earlier this year, Xcel said that it would shut down the coal plant by 2031 instead of 2040. They're accelerating their move away from coal. CORE CEO wrote in a letter to Xcel that the company has perpetuated a quote-unquote culture of failure at the coal plant. The co-op wants to withdraw from its deal for the plant and focus on cleaner energy instead. Cash handouts, no strings attached. Could it help solve homelessness? An entrepreneur in Denver thinks so. So the city's about to spend $2 million to find out. Katie Eastman talks with the founder of the Denver Basic Income Project.
I felt this really burning, urgent need to take action. And
in one way, Mark Donovan was like so many of us, watching the news in 2020 about people losing their jobs and wondering how to help.
I'm an entrepreneur.
But in another way, Mark is different. He had a lot of money invested in Tesla, and his investment only grew during the pandemic.
And so, when it comes to privilege, I check off all the boxes as a white, able male.
Mark took $500,000 of that Tesla money and created the Denver Basic Income Project. It uses the theory that if you give people experiencing homelessness the cash they need to survive, they'll use it to lift themselves out of their current circumstances.
People are frustrated with all the hoops that they have to jump through just to get a few scraps. And so when you say to somebody, we trust you, we believe in you, and we know that you know what you need in your life, that's powerful.
Since Mark's initial investment, the project has raised several millions more. And this week, Denver approved contributing $2 million from the American Rescue Plan Act.
You're going to start seeing some really exciting stories emerging from this space and from this work.
The formal research by the University of Denver begins with the full launch of the project in November, when 820 people will get direct cash payments each month over the course of a year.
It's just listening to them and letting them take the wheel because it's their life.
In preparation for this full launch, they've run 2 trials. Last year, the project gave 11 people $1,000 a month for a year. This July, they had a soft launch with 28 people, and they are on the 3rd payment. Mark said 2 people in the most recent round secured housing right away because of those payments. Kyle?
It'll be instructive to see what people do with the money. So going forward, they're going to study like different amounts for different people?
Yeah, there will be 3 different groups. One of those groups gets $1,000 for every month for the next 12 months. Another group will get a larger payment up front. So they'll try to see if that helps or hurts with that larger payment right away. There's a 3rd control group that gets $50 a month.
I think a lot of people presuppose what people would do with the money, one way or the other, and now we're going to find out.
We're going to find out.
Thank you, Katie. Remote learning was rough on students. We knew that. Research proves that.
In an odd way, I'm hoping that the data will help us move past that conversation.
Now the focus is on fixing learning gaps that were created by the pandemic. Growing up, breathing bad air can change your body. Researchers in Boulder are looking at how long that damage lasts. Colorado wants more electric cars on the roads. Well, first we're going to need some more charging stations, right? A plan to close the gaps. Next. There has been a long and sometimes nasty debate about the impact of remote learning. It's clear kids fell behind during the pandemic. Researchers, though, are now turning their attention to how to help students catch up. They say Colorado offers some good lessons on how to do that because kids here are catching up more quickly. Here's Anusha Roy.
It's a set of data that Dr. Emily Oster hopes can help a charged debate.
In an odd way, I'm hoping that the data will help us move past that conversation.
She's a part of a research lab that took a look at learning loss during remote learning. The first results are clear. The longer kids are remote learning, the bigger the drop-off in test scores.
We now have an opportunity to ask how we move forward. And with data like this, we can ask questions about recovery. We can ask what is it that makes some districts recover faster than others.
Some of those districts are in Colorado. Oster compared recovery rates using state test scores from before, during, and after the height of the pandemic. While Colorado has made some gains in reading and writing, the recovery in math stood out, around 65%, which is on the upper end. Compare that to Connecticut, that saw around a 30% recovery. Indiana was as low as 9%. Minnesota is facing poor recovery, while Mississippi is doing well.
There's probably something to learn from what Colorado did.
Oster can't say exactly what that is.
That's really exciting to hear.
So we asked Nadia Madan-Moro with Denver Public Schools.
It's Friday the 13th. It was this gloomy day. The weather was very gloomy, and we realized that we were going to have to launch into remote instruction.
From there, she said it was all about building the best possible infrastructure within the circumstances, making sure kids still got food, had the tech for remote learning, while talking to districts across the country.
A lot of other school districts were really struggling with getting computers into homes, trying to figure out how to feed families.
She hopes that all helped when kids came back in person.
We cannot go back and sort of reteach the standards we think kids missed. We've got to be teaching kids on the grade level standards, the grade level text that they're in, and we need to give some just-in-time supports if we notice that there might be some gaps in learning.
So I've chatted with Jeffco in Westminster as well about how their recovery efforts are going. A lot of it is high-intensity tutoring that is built into the school day. Every district, though, they said they have made some progress, but they're definitely not where they want to be, especially for math. They're seeing some of those gains slow down in grades that are really critical childhood development points. We're talking about elementary, middle school, that they're still working on recovering reading and math, things that have implications for years down the road for these kids.
One thing that the pandemic laid bare is that the states have so much autonomy with education. They really could make their own decisions about these things, which also means that it's sometimes tough to gauge state versus state on recovery, right?
So this study actually was only able to pull data from 12 states because that's the number of states that did enough testing in the middle of the pandemic. You also can't really compare state to state losses because that testing looks so different that it's not really a fair comparison either.
We do like to hear those success stories that came out of Colorado, and you've covered some of those, and we would love to hear more. All right, Anusha, thank you. So the state would like to dramatically increase the number of electric vehicles on our roads. Well, sweet guys, where are we going to charge them? The state is planning to use some federal tax money to close those charging gaps across the state. This week, the Biden administration approved Colorado's plan to expand EV infrastructure on our highways. It includes adding or upgrading charging facilities. The state's analysis found that some routes on green on a map that we're about to show you are in good shape. There you go. So Denver to Vail on I-70, well covered. You're good. Same thing for I-25 from Fort Collins down to Pueblo. Outside of that, though, like you want to go to like southwestern Colorado, good luck, champ. There are enormous gaps where charging systems need to be upgraded or are just kind of non-existent. Colorado expects to get $57 million in federal tax money over 5 years, so start picking out the first rounds of projects in March. Right now, the state estimates there are 60,000 electric vehicles on the road in Colorado. 60,000. The goal is to go to more than 940,000 by 2030.
All right, well, outside we still see some lingering clouds and some showers and storms pushing their way through the eastern plains. Right now, 71 degrees at DIA. Winds coming in from the southeast at around 16 miles per hour. Temperatures across the Front Range mostly in the lower 70s, mid-60s in Lyman, low 80s in Pueblo. And then those temperatures are going to start to drop as those showers continue to push their way further eastward. But we're at 50s and 60s in the high country, 74 out west in Grand Junction. Here's a look at our HD Doppler radar where we had some storms start off in the west, continue their way further eastward, and now just making their way across the eastern eastern plains as they eventually push into Nebraska and Kansas. For us here locally, though, we'll continue to see clouds clearing overnight, those lows near 53 degrees, pretty calm winds tonight, and that's going to set us up for a pretty decent day tomorrow. We'll get a good mix of sun and clouds, mostly stay dry, but we will watch for some spotty afternoon and evening storms. Those temperatures back toward those seasonal numbers in the low 80s. Today, we only made it into the 70s, and we'll continue to warm up each day as we move through the weekend. Sunday for the Broncos game, looking sunny, mid to upper 80s, a nice day there before we warm up even further for the start of our work week.
Researchers looked at babies' bellies to understand how the air we breathe changes our bodies. A smoky or a smoggy start to life can have a lasting impact. Would you look at that? Snow in the mountains. Time to dust off our resident meteorologist, Poet, so he can offer a few words. Never needs very many. Next. I have said some stone-cold stupid things on this show before, but perhaps the dumbest was when I referred to the year 3030. Nope, it would be the year 2030 when Colorado wants to have 940 electric vehicles on the show. Don't worry, stay tuned. I'll say stupider by the end of this. Children who are exposed to more air pollution as babies may have a greater risk of allergies, obesity, diabetes, and other issues. That's a finding from new research that's come out of CU Boulder. The scientists at CU started their air pollution study by looking at the stomachs of infants. The bacteria in your stomach can influence different aspects of your health. So they tracked more than 100 healthy babies from Southern California and their pollution exposure. The scientists found that infants in more polluted areas were missing the good bacteria, and they had more of the bad bacteria associated with inflammation.
Inhaled pollutants can reach the gut through inhalation and diffusion, where once in the gut, these particles can impact gut bacteria, either facilitating their growth or making it harder for them to populate the gut.
Research is going to keep following these children until they're 6 years old to see how the pollution changes their stomach bacteria over that time and what kind of health issues they develop. We get that air pollution is hard to avoid, whether we're talking about wildfire smoke that comes in from out of state or smog from interstates. Researchers say that staying inside on bad air days that we talk about and increasing ventilation while you're cooking are two things that can help. Some of Colorado's peaks looking a little ashy in the last couple of days. There's Fremont Pass up near Leadville. Mount Evans as well has got a bit of a dusting. It's really wild to see snow after so much recent heat. Our resident meteorologist Poet was moved by this.
Corey Reppenhagen is on the weather beat.
A bone-chilling tease. Icy peaks in September. Winter is coming.
That was Corey Reppenhagen on the weather beat.
Man is happier than a pig and you know what up there. He just needs something now that storm season's over. The most Colorado thing we saw today is an odd pairing. That and your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is being ready for the rapids. Anywhere, anytime. Next viewer named Lauren spotted somebody with a kayak on a bike rack at REI downtown. I imagine you probably did not get there in the kayak, but maybe you're headed to Confluence Park after? I don't know. See something that says Colorado? Send it to us with the hashtag HeyNext or email next@9news.com. Misspeaking when talking about our EV target. He says, you know, if we've got 1,008 years to reach the goal, it probably is doable. Yeah, that was definitely not my best work. Appreciate you sticking with me through it, and I'll see you next time.